Frater Tete Inameti. Frater Ntufam John Omori. And I can also, the original monitor there, sir. Frater, could please rise for nomination? Let's clap for original monitor. We have Frater Dr. Stephen Effiong. Frater Dr. Stephen Effiong, welcome, sir. Frater Dr. Chris Akpan. Frater Professor Alison Oguru. Thank you. As other regional monitors come, we'll acknowledge their presence accordingly. There is a regional monitor I will present to you at the appropriate time. We are also honored by the presence of Regional Monitor Veritai, the firm to grace this occasion. Permit me to acknowledge the presence of Vincent Arua, thank you very much, Father Vincent. Thanks for coming. Thanks so much. As other RMs come, we'll acknowledge your presence accordingly. We're also honored by the presence of our esteemed Grand Counselors, dignitaries of the order, beloved brothers and sisters. It is my honor as well as my privilege to acknowledge the presence of Frater Professor T.A.T. Wahwa, Grand Counselor for Bayelsa Grand Council area. May I also acknowledge the presence of Frater Edwin I. Obani, Grand Counselor for Rivers Grand Council area. Seated next to him is Frater Anthony Okorie, Grand Counselor Imo Abia Grand Council area. Thank you. Also in our midst is an esteemed Grand Counselor that wears several hats. Brothers and sisters, let's make welcome our Grand Counselor, Provincial Master, and member of the National Board. I'm talking of none other than Frater Architect Ekanem Kofi Ekanem. The conclave is a regional activity. In our jurisdiction, we have conclave zones. And this particular conclave is that of the Eastern Zone. Conclaves are managed, planned, and coordinated by a Grand Lodge officer whose duty it is to render this service. And at this point, we would like to acknowledge our brother, a regional monitor, whose responsibility it has been to assume the role of the chairman of the 46th Eastern Regional Rotational Conclave. Esteemed dignitaries of the order, beloved brothers and sisters, let's applaud Frater Arinze Obasi, regional monitor, chromatologist, and chairman of the 46th Eastern Regional Rotational Conclave. At some point in this program, the chairman will have the opportunity to say a few words to us. Thank you, sir, for all your work. The Ross Technician Order is a leadership development organization. The regional monitor, from our experience, needs to be guided. There is a Grand Council that plays a very important role as the host Grand Councilor to supervise and oversee that whatever we are doing is consistent with Grand Lodge rules and expectations. It is my honor to present to you our host Grand Councilor for Enugu, Anambra, and Ebonyi Grand Council area. Brothers and sisters, put hands together for Frater Godwin Abo. At some point, our host will welcome us. Thank you very much, sir. We are honored by the presence of a distinguished Rosicrucian, a source of inspiration to so many of us, a brother, a friend, a beacon of light, a beacon of hope, an astute administrator, an exemplary leader, a man that is eternally youthful at heart. This is a man that is digital as well as not analog. He's never been analog. This is a man that is an inspiration to so many of us. He has the ability to flow seamlessly from one generation to the other generation. This is the man that can meet you at your level. Distinguished brothers and sisters, we are honored by the presence of our most worthy Grandmaster and his beautiful spouse. Please acknowledge the presence of Frater Dr. Kenneth U. Idiodi and his spouse, Sarah Bridget Idiodi, Grandmaster of the Rosicrucian Order, Amok. It's an honor, and it's always delightful to have you in our midst. At some point, we will introduce our royal fathers when they arrive. The Rosicrucian Order is an international, educational, philosophical, mystical, fraternal, research-oriented organization made up of men and women who have devoted their lives to the study, investigation, and practical application of all natural and spiritual laws. There is an aspect of our tradition we are usually silent, that our tradition is also a royal tradition because it commences in the king's court. So that is why at our events like this, we are always honored by the presence of the royalty. And when they're right here, we'll acknowledge their presence accordingly. At this juncture, distinguished fathers and sisters, as a law-abiding organization, I will invite us all to please rise and let's sing the national anthem of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who has given us the privilege of meeting as Rosicrucians. The national anthem. Arise, O compatriots, Nigeria's call obey, to serve our fatherland. We hope and strength and faith. The labors of our heroes past shall never be in vain. To serve with heart and mind, one nation bound in freedom, peace and unity. O God of creation, direct and noble cause. Guide our leaders right. Help our youth the truth to know. With love and honesty to grow and keeping just and true. Great lofty heights attain to build a nation where peace and justice shall reign. Thank you very much. While still standing, let's revert to page 21 of our program and render the illumination anthem. Rosicrucians, see the signal waving in the sky. Light and life and love appearing, illumination. Hold the fort, for I am coming. Illumination. With the answer back to cosmic illumination. At the sunrise, always ask for illumination. At the sunset, always ask for illumination. Hold the fort, for I am coming. Illumination. Wave the answer back to cosmic illumination. At the noontime, always ask for illumination. At the midnight, always ask for illumination. Hold the fort, for I am coming. Illumination. With the answer back to cosmic illumination. At the threshold, always ask for illumination. At the crossroads, always ask for illumination. Oh, of course, for I am coming. Illumination. With the answer to cosmic illumination. With the answer back to cosmic illumination. Thank you. Please have your seat. Thank you. Having rendered that hymn, please turn to whoever is seated to your right. Shake the person and say, peace profound. Peace profound. Thank you. Thank you so much. When we started, I assured you that at some point, our regional monitor and chairman will have the opportunity to say a few words to us. Esteemed dignitaries of our order, the Rosicrucian order AMOC is the principles we hold here. Firstly, God exists. Secondly, man exists. And there is a definite relationship between God and man. That is why in everything we do, we acknowledge the presence of Almighty. Esteemed dignitaries of the order of friars and sisters, friends and guests, may I respectfully invite our esteemed Grand Counselor to lead us in an opening invocation. Please welcome Frater Architect Ekanem Kofi Ekanem.
We are at a very important stage of our work for today that would lead us for the rest of our program until we finish tomorrow. Therefore, I would request that you be as silent as possible and turn your consciousness within yourself for just a few minutes. Please stay relaxed and turn your consciousness inwards. Take a deep breath. Hold it. Exhale slowly. Take another deep breath. Hold it. Exhale slowly. Take a final deep breath. Hold it. Exhale slowly. And as you keep your eyes closed, concentrate on attuning yourself with the universal entity that has been given different names: God, Allah, Chineke, etc. God of our hearts, God of our realization, we have assembled today to conduct our 46th Eastern Regional Rotational Conclave with the theme Leadership and Nation Building, the Rosicrucian Perspective. We have assembled from different parts of this country and also from the diaspora, from the East, the West, the North, and the South of the universe. We have come to be impacted with knowledge that will help us to build this nation to a better nation. We ask for thy presence here and now. We ask for thy assistance, that those presenting may be inspired on ways in which they can reach the minds of those listening. And those listening will be inspired to raise their consciousness to a point where the knowledge will be useful to them and through them to humanity. We thank you for bringing us from the various parts of where we have come safely to this place. We thank you for conducting us throughout today and tomorrow, and thereby leading us back. May this conclave be a huge success for our better enlightenment, for the better building of this nation, and to the greater glory. This we ask in the name of light, life, and love. So much it be.
Thank you very much, Frater Ekanem Kofi Ekanem, for that very inspiring invocation. Esteemed dignitaries of the order, Lord Fathers and Sorors, friends and guests, may I at this juncture respectfully invite our beloved regional monitor and chairman of the 46th Eastern Regional Rotational Conclave, hosted by Chromata Lodge in the cold city of Enugu, Frater Arinze Obasi, to deliver the welcome address.
Thank you, most worthy Grandmaster, Frater Dr. Gerrit Idiodi, and spouse, Chief Ubemi Idiodi, honorable members of the National Board, dignitaries of order, beloved columns, members of the light bearers, the royal fathers, mothers here present, gentlemen of the press, respected fathers and sorors, friends, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen. With gratitude to God, I welcome you all on behalf of the local organizing committee to this 46th Eastern Regional Rotational Conclave, tagged Enugu 2022. Enugu is well known for peace and serenity. Thanks to His Excellency Governor, Right Honorable Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi, the apostle of political ecumenism, for sustaining the peace and security in the state. Therefore, I want to assure you that this state is truly in the hands of God, and you are welcome. The Rosicrucian Order Amok, known worldwide as ancient mystical order Rosicrucis, which has existed for over 3,364 years in this present incarnation, is a non-profit, non-sectarian, mystical, philosophical, educational, cultural, and traditional organization of both men and women who are devoted to study, experimentation, investigation, and practical application of natural and spiritual laws of God for the attainment of perfect health, peace, protection, and prosperity on all planes. As tradition demands, the officers and members of this noble organization gather on a yearly basis to dialogue, discuss, and deliberate on salient issues, the purpose of which, among others, is to deepen our understanding of the Rosicrucian teachings and their applications for daily living. This year, the theme for the conclave is leadership and nation building, the Rosicrucian perspective. I want to assure you that this conclave theme is timely as it points to the growth and development of any nation. Has met several times to fine-tune on the programs for the conclave. I therefore urge you to sit back, enjoy yourself, and listen to our resource persons who have prepared themselves to deliver on the conclave teams, sub-teams, and the rest of them. May I most respectfully thank our Grand Master, High Chief Dr. Kenneth Jodi and spouse for their prayers and support. I also thank all the Grand Lord officers in this Eastern Administrative Zone for Amok for funding this conclave and for their unflinching support. My special thanks goes to His Excellency Ambassador Godwin Abo Chinemeze for his constant advice and support throughout the planning process to this. Actually, he started his conclave when he was then the regional monitor before his elevation to the rank of Grand Chancellor. I am much elated at your presence, and on behalf of members of the local organizing committee, I welcome you all with all good wishes for peace to go found to Enugu 2022, the Rosicrucian Hybrid Conclave, the conclave of peace, hope, and fellowship. Welcome to the Go City. Thank you, and God bless you.
A big round of applause for the chairman. For those of us that may not know our chairman, he's always inspiring. He's inspiring to us because some of us can still recall when he was Lodge Secretary, and then he became Conclave Secretary, and then he became Worthy Master. And before we could blink our eyes, Regional Monitor, and now Chairman. Thank you so much, our Chairman. Thank you. Esteemed dignitaries of the order, love, brothers and sorrows, friends and guests, we are in the cold city of Enugu, consistent with Rosicrucian tradition. The cold city is in a Grand Lodge jurisdiction known as the Grand Council area. That is the highest ranking field officer of the Rosicrucian order in this jurisdiction. It is my honor, as well as my privilege, to invite the Grand Councilor for Enugu, Anambra, and Ebonyi Grand Council area, Frater, His Excellency Godwin Abo.
Most worthy Grandmaster, the protocol has been duly established. So I beg to stand on that precedent. It is my delight and pleasure to welcome you to the Coast City State, the foremost capital of the Eastern region of Nigeria, comprising all of us. When I say all of us, I mean all the states in the South Eastern region. This is a state that is clearly placed in the hand of God. So I welcome you for the 46th Zonal Rotational Conclave, tagged Enugu 2022. So in a sense, I welcome all of you back home. 5 years ago, we had the privilege of receiving you here in Enugu for the 41st edition of this conclave, which theme was Rosicrucianism for economic development, where the then Grand Administrator and now Grandmaster, Dr. K.U. Idiori, opined that Nigeria needed to come out of the economic quagmire, which they had found themselves by working hard and by being diligent in whatever they do. 5 years on, the recession, instead of abating, keeps deepening and worsening, leading to more recessions and economic failures, crumbling health and political turmoil, to mention but a few. These economic failures and setbacks being attributable to the inability of leadership to give a proper sense of direction to the led makes this year's conclave theme apt at this time. To build a nation, we need each other. Every single one of us holds a piece of what is required to build the right nation where we can all survive by collectively sharing it. We either protect it or fight for it. In fighting for it together, we fight for ourselves. In building a better nation, we build a better home for every single one of us. In building a better future, we build a future for our children. Approaching this theme from the Rosicrucian perspective will lead us to the fact that Rosicrucians build human person who build a nation and promote a better world. There can be no greater contribution than that, really, because the best asset of any nation are its enlightened citizens, the developed individual units that make up the whole. To derive the utmost from this conclave, I urge you to relax, feel at home, and enjoy the beautiful presentation from our erudite resource persons. None, Dejen, Uneje,
I know you can do better than that. Let's give our Grand Counselor a resounding round of applause. Thank you. Thank you. The Rosicrucian Order is also a cultural organization. So, if you look at this hall, you'll see the representation of the different cultures. It's a beautiful organization. It's also a fraternal organization because part of our work is to strengthen the fraternal bonds that unite human beings, regardless of race, regardless of culture, regardless of educational status, or economic status, regardless of religion. So we have diversity. And at conclaves like this, we take the time and the opportunity to celebrate our culture. So it is at this point we'll invite members of the cultural troupe to kindly take the stage and entertain us with our unique cultural dance. Thank you. Put a round of applause for cultural troop. I am not satisfied. A better round of applause for them. That was a very invigorating and entertaining presentation by Adaeze Cultural Troop in the good state. Thank you very much for entertaining us. The interesting thing about the Rosicrucian order is that we deliberately encourage diversity. We deliberately prepare for the future. And the theme for this conclave is really instructive: leadership and nation building. The Rosicrucian order deliberately trains its young persons to assume leadership responsibility very early in life. So at this conclave, we have them present, starting from the columns of the Rosy Cross. So we will acknowledge their presence and greet them accordingly. Up columns of the Rosy Cross.
Keep the dove immaculate.
There they are. Up column of the Rosy Cross.
Keep the dove immaculate.
Up columns of the Rosy Cross.
Keep the dove immaculate.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Those are columns, and they are very important to us. Also present are members of the Light Bearers Association. Light bearers in the house, could you please rise? Up, light bearers. Up, light bearers. Keep the light shining. Yes, our light bearers are working very hard behind the scenes. And I am also a graduate of the Light Bearers Association. So you can see. If you take a look at this hall, you'll see our beautifully clad sorors. Our sorors mentor, guide the columns as well as light bearers. You know, our fathers are usually very busy. So when there are issues, it's natural for us to run to our mothers. We call them sisters of the Rosy Cross. Up, sisters of the Rosy Cross. Up, sisters of the Rosy Cross. Keep the rose blooming. Thank you. Syrup, the light bearers, would not be what it is today without the dedication of a mother who affectionately referred to as mommy. She's a lady with a large heart. She's a lady that is a disciplinarian, but also very loving and creative. And she is the pillar, the right-hand pillar of our most worthy grandmaster. I am talking of none other than the national coordinator of the Light Bearers Association, Sisters of the Rosy Cross, and the Column Counselor, distinguished and esteemed dignitaries of the order, beloved fathers and my sorors, it is my privilege to present to you Soror Bubemi Bridget Idiodi. Thank you very much. Of course, you know that of masters of affiliated bodies. Masters of affiliated bodies ensure that our work gets done at the local level. Brothers and sorors, please join me to acknowledge the presence of masters of the Rosicrucian Order Amok that are here in this hall. Masters, please rise. Masters, please rise. All brethren of the Rosy Cross, all brethren of the Rosy Cross, keep the flag flying. Keep the flag flying. Thank you for also clapping for me as the master of an affiliated body. At and Lord. Thank you so much. Thanks a whole lot. Now that the stage has been set, we have a very important, significant, and symbolic act of opening the portals of the 46th Eastern Regional Rotational Conclave on the theme Leadership and Nation Building, the Rosicrucian Perspective. Esteemed dignitaries of the order, beloved fathers and sorors, please make welcome the Grand Master of the Rosicrucian Order to give the opening declaration on the theme Leadership and Nation Building. Put hands together for Frater Dr. Kenneth U. Idiodi, Grand Master.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Frater and Rose. Please be seated. Dignitaries of our order, invited guests, Your Royal Highnesses, gentlemen of the press, our distinguished fratres and sorors. It's unbelievable that it's 5 years ago that we were in Enugu for an Eastern Conclave. And here we are again, and glad that all the challenges of ravaging a pandemic have subsided, and we know that as we focus more and more on what we can do together for our common humanity, this pandemic will disappear from the face of the earth. So much to be. Since already I arrived in Enugu some days ago, we have been simply overwhelmed by the sheer warmth and conviviality of our fratres and sorors here, from the airport right through to when we had to exchange pleasantries with traditional rulers of this town, whom I've identified with for as much as over 45 years or so ago. I recall the year of the Festival of Arts and Culture, First Act 77 at the National Arts Theatre in Lagos, in which so much was said by Africans in the diaspora during the colloquium about the vastness of the Nigerian cultural heritage and the diversity that brought us together as a nation. And clearly, the cultural troupe that has just performed, vibrating all our glands and psychic centers, has just confirmed this. True or false? No, in the palace of each of the traditional rulers, we were hardly allowed to leave. They were as excited to receive us as we were to see them. And the shared atmosphere of camaraderie that prevailed indicated the love that bonded us together with them in their palaces and us in our fraternal, traditional, cultural setup as a mystical, initiatic, and philosophical organization. We expect one of them to be here later on, and at that time we'll do an appropriate 2-3 minute cultural and traditional ceremony, and hope that in the course of this conclave, you will know that just as the traditional rulers have led at the level of African traditions, so too are we obliged at the local government, at the state government, at the federal government, in the legislature, in the judiciary, at the level of the fourth estate of the realm, the print and electronic media, and at our own levels of service in our affiliated bodies, in various professions, to be guided by the wisdom of the ancients encapsulated in the teachings of the worldwide Rosicrucian Order Amok, to do all we can to lead properly at our little levels, so that when we have the opportunity to serve and lead at the more international and global levels, we can give a good example, leadership example, that will inspire and uplift our nation, our continent, and humanity as a whole. Francis and Rose, are you listening to me? I ask one question now. Just one question. Yesterday, it was Japan. Today, it is Dubai. Can it be Nigeria tomorrow? Let me repeat this question. Get it? Yesterday, it was Japan. Today, it is Dubai. Can it be Nigeria tomorrow? Good. You see, the amazing growth of the city of Dubai within a span of 50 years is an example of the positive effects of visionary leadership on nation building. Remember what Nigeria was. There was disenchantment with the civilian government just 6 years after independence. This is vivid in my memory because the year of independence, I was in the secondary school, and it was by the appointment of the principal that I dutifully lowered the Nigerian flag as a Boy Scout and raised the British flag we lowered, and then raised the Nigerian flag. And we all sang the anthem, though tribes and tongues may differ, in brotherhood we stand. 1960, 1st of October. Some of you here on the odd side of age remember this vividly, and with nostalgia, we were so glad to be free from the imperial and colonial authorities. And we felt we had a great opportunity to build a nation in line with African norms, culture, customs, and traditions, but also in tune with civilization. You see, the 6-year disenchantment on the 15th of January. I remember being on duty in the air traffic control tower at Lagos Airport. The first coup occurred. 6 months after that, July 29 was a counter coup. And since then, there have been several eras of military interregnum until eventually a decision was taken by the military with exposure to the trend of global civilization that it was an aberration for them to be in power at the political helm of affairs, and they will subordinate themselves to civilian authority. And we have been learning democratic norms and practices, the much referred to dividends of democracy. Divisions of democracy, not just dividends. And since as Rosicrucians, we are metaphysically aware of unity in diversity and diversity in unity, we are in a position to contribute mystically, philosophically, to building the various emerging democratic nations of the world to a level where at the Committee of Nations, we are seen to contribute our quota. So in 1966, the year of the double coups in Nigeria, Dubai was just a small cluster of fishing settlements. Today, it is one of the world's most popular destinations. True or false? Apart from being a tourist destination, Dubai has achieved remarkable growth in information technology, communications, trade, investment, and infrastructural development. Oil production, which made up over 50% of its gross domestic product, GDP, in its early stages of development, today contributes less than 1% of the GDP. They still have it in abundance, and it's still doing what it used to do. But instead of it contributing over 50%, over half of its GDP, today it's less than 1%, meaning that they have expanded, explored, and excelled at other levels of a diversified economy to bring to fruition their aspirations. Please listen. The ruler of the Emirates of Dubai is Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. He is the Prime Minister of the United Arab Emirates, UAE. When asked about leadership, Sheikh Mohammed said, I do not know if I am a good leader, but I am a leader. And I have a vision. I look to the future 20, 30 years and beyond. I learned that from my father, Sheikh Rashid. He was the true father of Dubai. I follow his example. He will rise early and go alone to watch what was happening on each of his projects. I do the same. I watch, I read faces, I take decisions, and I move fast, full throttle, unquote. In these remarks, we can glean some practical principles of leadership. The first of these is humility. There is also the principle of looking and planning far into the future. There is the need for a hands-on approach and determination to follow through on the implementation of decisions. These decisions are taken and implemented as quickly as possible. This is in line with an admonition very familiar to members of AMOC from the book Unto the I Grant, The Economy of Life, which is, and I quote, "Whatsoever thou resolvest to do, do it quickly. Defer not to the evening or the morning." It will be repeated and elaborated upon by the facilitators of this conclave as they address the theme leadership and nation building, the Rosicrucian perspective. If we think, first and foremost, of the developmental and economic challenges around the world today, we will definitely appreciate the timeliness of this theme. Funny enough, some people have asked why the Rosicrucian order AMOC should delve into the subject of leadership and nation building. Perhaps seeing this as departure from our primary objective. This can be answered by a simple analysis of our mission statement, which will certainly reveal the connection. In summary, our mission statement affirms that the Rosicrucian order AMOC is dedicated to the study and investigation of universal laws. The understanding of these laws is applied practically in our daily lives for the attainment of health, happiness, and peace. One of the universal laws of nature is the law of unity. This law manifests in various ways in nature. An example of this manifestation can be seen in communal living. Human beings always unite together to live in communities. We were not created to exist as individuals, let alone in isolation, and cannot attain health, happiness, and peace without the support of a community. Another universal law is the law of reciprocity or reciprocal action. There is a reciprocal reaction to every action. This establishes balance. By this law, it is clear that members of the community must give support to the community as they receive support from the community. The balance of this reciprocal action is the only way it can remain functional and in existence. Every nation is in reality an amalgamation of various communities. A member of the Rosicrucian order as a student of universal laws is conscious of these facts. It therefore becomes easy to connect the dots and realize we should all be interested in nation building in our aspiration for health, happiness, and peace. In this conclave, we are going to delve deeply into the theme. In fact, immediately after me, our host Grand Chancellors will be dwelling on the theme. It shall be taken broadly as a theme lecture and then broken into sub-themes for more detailed analysis. These presentations shall be made by Grand Chancellors of our order, who by virtue of their rank and position have a working knowledge of leadership from the Rosicrucian perspective. In this address, I will limit myself to merely preparing your minds for what you are about to hear from the Grand Chancellors. If you think about it carefully, you'll be compelled to accept the logical argument that people get the leaders that they deserve. We can classify the people of the world into two categories, leaders and followers. If you are not a leader, you are a follower. Based on this, every leader was once upon a time a follower, true or false. Like I've repeatedly said, each of us is a leader in one aspect of life and a follower in another aspect of life. And we know for a fact that our future leaders will emerge from persons who are presently followers. It was ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle who said, and I quote, "He who cannot be a good follower cannot be a good leader." Unquote. We can add to that by saying that a potentially good leader will fail miserably if placed over bad followers. On the other hand, a seemingly weak leader will excel if appointed over good followers. You see, the followers must support a leader. And if the leader is weak, with the support from the followers can become a little stronger. True or false? We expect the best from our leaders, but often fail to ask ourselves what kind of followers we are. This brings to mind a local Nigerian adage that says, when you point your finger at someone, your remaining fingers are pointing back at you. In a bid for a better nation, we must evaluate our role in supporting good leadership. The challenges we encounter in society are commonly attributed to bad leadership. People respond to this. Many people respond to this by condemning their leaders. They, in fact, compete in coming up with the most derogatory names to describe them. They do not seem to realize that the negative images they invoke on these leaders do not help the situation in any way. If anything, they multiply the societal challenges already being suffered. The battered negative image of a leader is demotivating and demoralizing. This can lead to the underperformance of many other people in their responsibilities to society. There is also the problem of creating a poor role model. Many people are inclined to emulate their leaders. This comes from a natural desire to imitate influential people in our lives. This can be seen ab initio in the tendency to behave like our parents as well growing up, behave like our teachers or like the boss in the office. It is often an unconscious urge. By this principle, we can expect that the image we propagate of our leaders as we condemn them will inadvertently promote similar qualities in the population. Meanwhile, leaders who bear the brunt of heavy criticism and verbal abuse are unlikely to change their ways because of it. On the contrary, such an approach will make them harden in their ways. It's as if the group consciousness is hardening their hearts. There is a natural tendency to be defensive when attacked. It is a function of our survival instinct. If we push our leaders into a defensive mood by persistent attacks, they will automatically become more concerned about their personal egos than the welfare of the general populace. When our leaders make mistakes or disappoint our expectations, it is far more profitable to address this constructively rather than destructively. If we are in a position to criticize anything, constructive criticism is the way to go rather than destructive criticism. The principle behind this is the same reason we recommend making positive affirmations rather than negative affirmations. The difference between positive and negative affirmation can be objectively explained using a drinking glass of water or with water in it up to halfway level. A positive affirmation for those who would like to drink water would be to say that the glass is half full. By contrast, a negative affirmation would be to say that the glass is half empty. One affirmation focuses on what is desired, while the other focuses on the lack of what is desired. Positive affirmations are superior to negative affirmations. This is because putting our attention and focus on what we want greatly increases our chances of bringing it into manifestation. If, therefore, we focus on the things we want, we are more likely to get them. Conversely, if we focus on what displeases us, we should expect an increase of this in our lives. Constructive criticism is like a positive affirmation, while destructive criticism is like a negative affirmation. If we notice a shortcoming in a leader, we can be constructive by proposing certain measures that will help to reverse the shortcoming or overcome its negative effects. If, for example, leaders are found to be corruptly enriching themselves with the resources of the nation, proposals should be made that will enforce transparency and accountability. This will be a constructive approach. The time and effort invested in working out ways to institutionalize transparency will certainly return greater value to us than the time and effort spent verbally attacking corrupt leaders. Another example would be in the case of observing partiality in infrastructural development or government appointments. The constructive thing to do will be to advocate for the introduction of policies for development or government appointments, as the case may be. The principle here, if clearly understood, can be applied to all facets of our lives. Instead of bemoaning our fate with quarreling and foul language, we should seek out practical solutions and pursue them. With such an attitude, the work of our leaders in serving us will be made easier. Another quality that a leader needs from the people is loyalty to the nation. Unfortunately, many place their loyalty on the leader rather than on the nation. This can have the effect of polarizing citizens, especially in democratic countries where opposition to the government is recognized and institutionalized. In such situations, it is not unusual to have the citizens forming two camps, one behind the leader, the elected leader, and the other behind the main opposition. The camp behind the leader can easily become delusional and incapable of seeing any faults in the government. On the other hand, interestingly, the camp behind the opposition can also become disillusional in the opposite sense of becoming incapable of appreciating anything positive done by the government in power. In extreme cases, the opposition can sabotage the good efforts of the government, even at the expense of national interest. With loyalty given primarily to the nation by all parties, these problems are resolved. It becomes easy to make an objective assessment of the leader's performance and know where and when to give necessary support for the benefit of all. Another critical area in which we can offer support to leadership is by diligence. Diligence to duty in whatever service we offer to the public. Indeed, this may be the most important thing we can do. For many, it is also the easiest thing we can do in our capacity to support good leadership. It is becoming increasingly more relevant to look at a country as the aggregation of all the services offered by the citizens rather than its physical structures and land occupied. This is not a far-fetched concept, and many indeed become the norm, and may indeed become the norm of the future. For instance, in a groundbreaking diplomatic move, Estonia, a European country, now offers e-citizenship, which gives people who have never physically lived in their country the rights to enjoy many of the online services previously reserved for their citizens only. These services, which are over 4,000 in number, include banking, business registration, health services, etc. With a current population of about 1.3 million people, Estonia is aiming to have up to 10 million digital citizens by 2025, just 3 years from now. It should not be difficult to envision the work that each person does as a service that forms an element in the fabric of the nation's existence. The work of the leader, from a certain perspective, will seem just as one element among what every other person does to keep the country operational. If majority of us do our work diligently, our country will be truly great indeed. It is, fraternism, as simple as that. Very few people who visit the country will have the opportunity of meeting the leader of the country. The impressions they will have of the country will be based on their interaction with the common people they meet. The quality of our lives is therefore to a large extent in our hands. And this is determined mostly by the diligence we put into the public services we offer. If we want to be prosperous, if we want fortune, wealth, and all that as a nation, we should be diligent. As per Untitled Grant, the economy of life, and I quote, diligence is the mother of fortune, unquote. Finally, we have a duty to pray regularly for the growth and welfare of the country we belong to or have the privilege of residing in. Such prayers should involve petitions on behalf of our leaders that they may enjoy good health, strength, and the inspiration to direct the affairs of the nation. This is a very important part of our work, and you all know as Rosicrucians, when we swing into meditation and medi-focus sessions, that is what we are doing. All human beings are connected on the inner planes by virtue of the fact that we share in one human soul. However, we are also bound together in the inner planes in other ways. We are, for example, psychically bound together by our cultural practices, traditions, thoughts, attitudes, and allegiances. As a citizen of a country, we are constantly impacted by spiritual and psychic radiations emanating from our fellow citizens. We are also words and deeds contributing to the overall spiritual edifice of the nation, otherwise known as the egregore of the nation. The idea that what is happening in one part of the country will have little or no effect on another part is a serious mistake. Such ideas can only arise out of complete ignorance. Everything that we observe in the physical world pre-existed in the inner planes before coming into external manifestation. So if we notice any turmoil in some faraway part of the country, we should understand that this could easily have occurred where we are and may yet still occur. This is because while we may not be immediately suffering the outer manifestation, we are by virtue of the egregore of the nation all suffering the inner counterparts of the turmoil. We must therefore all be involved in the work of harmonizing the egregore of the nation. In addition to prayers, this can be achieved by focused meditation, medi-focus, during which we consciously direct uplifting thoughts to all citizens wherever they may be. We may sometimes have to give particular attention to certain hotspots and situations. In today's global village, we can by extension say that whatever is happening in any corner of our planet, we are to some extent affected, and we should watch out to see that if this is a negative, we put positive energy and make sure we transform and transmit it and hope for something positive. If we have been praying and meditating for our personal welfare only, without spending some time to pray for our community, our nation, or our common humanity as a whole, we cannot essentially expect to get the best results. In fact, this may be one of the reasons why many people do not get the kind of results they hope for, the selfishness in their prayers. And maybe this is the key that will unlock the blessings they deserve. It stands to reason, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, that it is impossible to grow in isolation. We must include the growth of our communities in our plans for personal growth at all levels, material and spiritual. With this in mind, let us now prepare our minds to listen to the presentations, which I am sure will be loaded with minimal principles. We should commit to applying them in our lives if we are not already doing so. In the final analysis, we are all leaders of some sort and must accept the responsibility of playing our part, improving our lives and the lives of all persons we come in contact. It is on this note, brothers and sisters, dignitaries of our order, ladies and gentlemen, that I now exercise the singular privilege you have conferred upon me to declare the 46th Eastern Regional Rotational Conclave open. Let us continue with the sowing and reaping process. To sow good and reap good is living. To think good and speak good is good. To speak good and do good is better. To think, speak, and do good is best. Think good, speak good, and do good always as a way of life. Think good, speak good, and do good always is the law. Think good, speak good, and do good always as a way of life. Think good, speak good, and good always is the law. May the light, life, and love of the cosmic abide with us, and may we be receptive to the inspiration of hours, days, weeks, months, and years ahead under the auspices of the Rosy Cross. So motivated.
A resounding round of applause of the Grandmaster. Thank you very much. May I now invite the theme lecturer for the 46th Eastern Regional Rotational Conclave on the theme Leadership and Nation Building, the Rosicrucian Perspective. Please make welcome Frater Godwin N. Agbo, Grand Counselor, as he renders the theme lecture. A round of applause for him, please.
Most worthy Grandmaster and President of the Supreme Court of English West Africa Administration, our indefatigable Dr. Kenneth U. Ijodi, and the better half and the national coordinator of the Sisters of the Rosy Cross Life Bearers Association, Junior Order, and our beautiful columns, Chief Mrs. GB present, most distinguished Grand Councilors, regional monitors, worthy masters here present, and all the dignitaries of our order. Greetings to you all.
I'm happy to be introduced as a lecturer. So, but I'm not to the way we used to say class all stand, sit. And so but in taking this concrete theme, which is leadership and nation building, the restitution perspective, it will be taken in three parts, as the theme indicates. First, we take on leadership, and then nation building. After that, we approach it from the prosecution perspective. So as a preamble, the problem of leadership and issues of governance have continued to have devastating impact on nation building, especially in the third world countries. The interplay of leadership, governance, and nation building is intricate and inseparable. This is so because the context of leadership impacts governance and reflects on nation building processes. Warren Bennis, in his publication on becoming a leader in 1989, stated that leadership is like beauty. It is hard to define, but when you see it, you know it. And when you know it, you see it. Some third world countries, especially in Africa, in the early 1960s, had higher GDP per capita than their Asian counterparts. But in an interval of 30 years, they later became Asian tigers, while those African countries are immersed in perennial violent wars, armed conflicts, insurgencies, unrelenting economic crisis, financial corruption. Then the latest in Nigeria now is the case of banditry all over. You know, those Asian countries that are called tigers, like Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan, and South Korea. Early 60s, Nigeria far better than them. 30 years on, they were the ones supplying the rest of the world with all the technologies we have today. Why we keep dwindling here in this part of the world? So what makes the difference? So in the light of the conundrum, this presentation attempts to look at how leadership and governance have interacted and the implication of their interactions on nation building. The terms leader and ruler are often used erroneously and interchangeably. A leader is someone who wants to show the way. He acts as a guide. He supervises actions, policies, and workings of a group of people, an organization, or even community. That is someone that formulates or gives directive essentially for the purpose of achieving set out goal. A leader must key into the dreams of the people he is leading, because people see him as a person leading them to the promised land.
In other words, a leader is an embodiment of the group essence. He represents the wishes and aspirations of the led. Thus, he must exude some positive attributes, such as ability to be visionary, integrity, good education, deep knowledge of history, and must be well enlightened in almost all aspects of leadership and administration. It is pertinent to note that in talking about education, it is not within the context of Western education. Rather, education in this context is used in very broad terms to mean vast knowledge and experience of things about life, purpose, and essence of life, and leadership, with a great sense of responsibility and responsiveness, all of which constitute civility. A leader could emerge in various aspects of human activities, and this could be in the religious, political, economic, and social domain. A ruler, on the other hand, is someone who rules or governs a set of people by exercising dominion or control power over them. As against leadership, which has to do with the ability to inspire, direct, motivate, and encourage others positively to targeted ends. Don't mind the cap you see there, because you can still see this red cap or that kind of OPC cap, and you still see tyrants there also. Wasn't the military. So leadership can be defined in its simplest term as the quality of being good and leading a team, organization, a nation or country, and so on. The qualities of leader must possess include, but not limited to, humility, competence, confidence, creativity, strong character, decisiveness, capacity to manage conflicts, ability to transcend parochialism and emotionalism, deep knowledge of his environment and the world at large, ability to stay focused at all times, openness, and so on. Leadership and governance have been recognized as imperative for the attainment of nation building. The importance of leadership to governance is seen in the fact that good leadership sets the tone and standard of governance. Various programs and policies are evoked by leaders which help the country to promote nation building. It has also, to some extent, fostered unity in diversity among the various ethnic groups in the country, and thus integrated the country. Governance and leadership must not lack vision, must not be engaged in corruption, mismanagement of public resources, which consequently results in economic setbacks and national insecurity. Therefore, to achieve good leadership and good governance, there is need for a vibrant civilized society committed to ensuring free and fair election, leading to the enthronement of political leaders founded on distinct sound value systems and with a probe for integrity and accountability. Most third world countries are struggling with the problem of nation building. These problems have been the inability of the people to bring up a real leader whose commitment to the effective development of the country will be patriotic and nationalistic. Most of the leaders have been unable to come up with programs and effective policies that should be beneficial to all. Most of the leaders have been after selfish gains and thereby amass wealth for themselves. It is axiomatic that the quality of a leader in a country affects the level of development. Poor leadership and bad governance can yield an underdevelopment. To this end, it becomes a thing of worry for one to begin to imagine how a third world country, for example, Nigeria, will ever rise out of decadence and her impoverished state, being that those that are meant to steer the wheels of the nation toward the national emancipation and prosperity lack the sanity and morality to do so. It was Plato, a sage, who posited that there be no end to the troubles of states or of humanity itself, till philosophers become kings in this world, or till those who now call kings and rulers really and truly become, and political power and philosophy must come into the same hands. On nation building, a nation is a body of people that live in a definite territory, usually united and loyal to one another because they belong together and share a common history, values, customs, hopes, and so on. Nation building refers to the concerted efforts to bring people or peoples together for the purpose of achieving common objectives as one people. According to Adekaya, in 1981, nation building involves the psychological reconstruction of individuals, a process of infusing into the people of new independent territories who differ widely in language, religion, and values with a new sense of common belonging and have them share an identity. The above mentioned concept fits into Nigerian situation. This is because the people that make up the nations of Nigeria were hitherto independent entities who differed widely in languages, religion, values, and operated under different political structures, but were later merged together under a bigger political leadership to function as a unit of people with a common identity. It is this new structure and the attempt to consolidating it that has come to be known as nation building process. Nation building is indeed a complex system of establishing a polity in which differences of tribe, language, religion, economic development, and education and loyalties to smaller groups give place to the nation a desirable expression of unity. When this state of development is reached, society will be based on mutual interdependence for individuals and groups who would inhabit that nation state. Nation building aims at the unification of the people within the state so that it remains politically stable and viable in the long run. Nation building can involve the use of propaganda for major infrastructural development to foster social harmony and economic growth. Nation building is therefore about building the tangible and intangible traits that hold a political entity together and gives it a sense of purpose. On governance, various views are articulated on the concept by different scholars. Governance can be defined as a tradition and institutions by which authority in a country or nation is exercised. This includes the process by which government are selected, monitored, and replaced. The capacity of the government to effectively formulate and implement sound policies, and the respect of citizens and the state, and the institutions that govern economic and social interactions among them. Although power is central to the government, it is not absolute and should never be absolute. As accountability, transparency, and representation check and diffuse power. Thus, governance is the ability to use power in its right propensity and direction to achieve a group's goal for the benefit of all the group and the overall development and progress of the group. Approaching this topic from the Rosicrucian point of view, I made reference to Sanctum Musings by most worthy Grandmaster Dr. K. Ujodi on the topic Rosicrucians and nation building in the year 2000. Rosicrucians contribute a lot in the development of our society in particular and that of humanity in general. The aim and purpose of the Rosicrucian order among is to build creative, resourceful, self-reliant, and altruistic human beings. In other words, the order develops the heart and minds of its students so as to provide society with artisans, technicians, knowledgeable parents that will in turn rear their offspring, teachers that will in turn spread the teachings through their students, leaders, public servants or professionals imbued with unique HO reciprocation techniques that would make them master builders of nations and civilizations. True to its declared objectives, the order, as a worldwide organization, not only organizes continuous research centrally, but encourages individual members throughout the world to conduct researches into all natural and spiritual laws. Contributing to the central pool of research findings is carefully selected core of experts in various disciplines drawn from different parts of the world. This core is officially known as the International Research Council of AMOC. Education is perhaps the principal ingredient in the development of a free and enlightened society. As former Nigerian head of state and eminent Rosicrucian, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe repeatedly emphasized, show the light and the people will find the way. Show the light and people will find the way. AMOC is an international educational organization which has been guiding its students to the path of light for the past 3,374 years. It has been recognized as such by every government of every civilized land in which it operates. This educational program serves to build character and integrity and bring political knowledge to its members by emphasizing the following virtues: self-reliance. Prosecution students are made intimately acquainted with natural laws, primarily the law of compensation, which stipulates that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Through this knowledge, they know that there is no getting without giving. There is no reward on end. There is no achievement without effort. And there is no magic or supernatural power that can hinder or override their own determination. These instructions provide a clearer picture of universal justice. The student acts rightly because he knows why he must. Prosecution students are trained to concentrate on and apply themselves to the matters of the day, instead of dwelling on the past or on tomorrow. If today's responsibilities are properly attended to or harnessed, tomorrow will take care of itself. Prosecution students are encouraged to carry positive and constructive thoughts in all their endeavors, to carry in their hearts thoughts of goodness, love, kindness, health, and justice. Prosecution students are taught that the attainment of harmony is man's supreme goal, that it is his obligation to bring harmony into life and into the lives of those with whom he lives. He is further taught to find harmony through meaningful discussion, learning, and sharing with others. So it's taught to serve God and humanity, that by so doing, they best serve themselves. That in service to family, neighbor, and the state, they work for the common good. From the common good, they derive substance and happiness. This is the basis for our daily, weekly, monthly material meditation and focusing session, which we call Betty Focus. We know that by radiating good thoughts, using good words, and doing good deeds, we assist God to create a better nation and a better world. And by so doing, facilitate heaven to help those who help themselves. Our institution programs of instruction through the graded monographs and affiliated bodies board activities, such as forums, symposia, workshops, convocations, conclaves of this nature, and conventions are so enlightening and pragmatic that they fill the yawning gaps our formal education has created and provide the nation with the developed soul personalities who have a holistic appraisal of factors that are conducive to societal welfare and development. Our intimate attunement with the creative constructive forces and the consciousness of God offers us a unique insight, foresight, and intuition to effectively tackle human problems of personal, communal, national, and global levels, especially with our understanding that there is a solution to every problem. The solutions build human persons who build a nation and promote a better world. There can be no greater contribution than that, because the best assets of any nation are its enlightened citizens and developed individual units that make up the whole. It is evident, therefore, that Rosicrucians are dependable nation builders. To conclude this presentation, I want to briefly share with you my experience as the Nigerian head of mission to the Empire of Japan from the year 2008 to 2015. That is the picture of Tokyo. I found in the Japanese people and culture an advanced civilization based on the way they have imbibed and they speak, though not all, the most of the tenets and virtues of life. I found a society where bribery is not tolerated for any form of service, not to talk of even receiving it. Where theft, if any, is at its lowest ebb, and even when done, they are done by visitors to the country. I had lived in Japan for 2 years plus. So one evening, we organized a reception for some visitors. So when they left at about 1:30 a.m., I was just moving around the residence, checking all the doors. To my surprise, when I got to one of the back doors that led to the main road, I saw that it was open. At about 1:30 a.m., I was very curious. So I waited until the morning when the resident workers came to work. I was harassing them while they left that door open and went. So they were all surprised when I was shouting on them. At the point, one of them asked me, "Sir, yes, which door are you even talking about?" I said, "The one that led us. I want to show them." They told me that that door had been opened. I said, "Since when?" He said, "Since I came." I said, "For more than 2.5 years, this door has been open. Even when I go to sleep." They say, "Yes, sir." So I kept quiet. I just left them. So that's the kind of country. So where people get tired of possessing or having money and go to trash millions of yen in the refuse bins. Some of our people that were in Japan, what they used to do was move from trash depot to trash depot searching for money. And some of them were getting serious millions of yens when they moved about like that, before the Japanese authorities started encouraging them that if you are tired of possessing your money, you can donate to charity. So some of them started listening to them. Otherwise, they would then get tired and then go to throw away the money. So a people that seem contented with themselves in terms of material acquisitions, where keeping to time is very much respected, where the love of one's country is being fully demonstrated in practical terms. When the Muslim world master was making his speech, he said, yesterday it was Japan, today Dubai, tomorrow Nigeria, who knows? So when I say that where love of one's country is being demonstrated, when I arrived in Japan in 2008, just soon after, the Minister of Agriculture then traveled to Brussels, that's in Belgium, for ministerial meeting. So because he traveled for more than 12 to 13 hours, and the time difference between Japan and Europe is 8 hours. So while in the meeting, he was kind of dozing off and then coming back. So the camera caught him when he was dozing. They showed it in Japanese national television. He came back, went into his office, dropped some little note and hung himself. And the note he dropped was that he disappointed his country. Just like dozing off. So I don't know, can we do it here? So with all the above mentioned niceties about this country, and being one of the most technologically advanced in the world, yet they have the highest suicide rate. So when I had lunch with the state chief of protocol and the wife, I asked him, with all these things that you have, countries with all these nice things, why do you kill yourselves? He said, you know, the reason is boredom. I said, what kind of boredom? He said, there's a problem that you need to be spicing life. How can you come into your house every time you switch on the light, it is on? You turn on the tap, it's running. You come out for a train every 7 a.m. in the morning, it's there, packed for you. Say, but if you come into your house and turn on the light and there's no light, you say, oh, there's no light. All of a sudden, light will come, you say, hey, there's light. So you need to be spicing life. You turn on the water, there's no water. How can I get water to wash your clothes? All of a sudden, the water will start running. You say, there's water. So they came on a visit to Kenya, Nigeria, and Ghana. That is the Japanese diet. The parliament, they call them diet. They call them diet. As we say, National Assembly, their own is diet. So they visited Kenya, Nigeria, and Ghana. So when they returned back to Japan, what interested them most was in Lagos. When they saw one vulcanizer seated by the gutter side and then walking on time, and at the same time singing. So in Japan, you see everybody frowning. Highly can even hi. But this one under the scorching sun, seated by the gutter side, and then singing at the same time and walking. I said that they should not include happiness index if they're checking countries' GDPs. They have to include happiness index. I told them it's suffering and smiling. So the infrastructure development of a country or its beautiful nature does not translate to nation building. Nation building has to do with the development and the enlightenment of the people in all facets of human development. It is also a continuous process. There is never a time a nation can be said to have attained full development, just as humans also keep evolving and tending towards perfection. That's how nation will keep developing and also tending towards perfection. Thank you very much.
Can we give our team lecturer a standing ovation if you enjoyed this presentation? Thank you. Thank you so much, His Excellency Godwin A. Akpo, Grand Counselor and former Ambassador of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to the Empire of Japan. He has taken the time to take us through the process of leadership and nation building, gave us the Rosicrucian perspective as well as insight from his personal experience as the envoy of our country to the Empire of Japan. The spontaneous applause and the laughter we had convinces me that we enjoyed this presentation. Let's give another round of applause. Grand Chancellor, you did not tell us if they eventually did the happiness index, because we want to know where we stand. Thank you very much, Lord President Soros. The next item on our program would be the interactive session, the press panorama. Yes, but just before we do the press panorama, we'll do a usual symbolic but very practical exercise on Rosicrucian fraternity. We'll have to cut the conclave. So I will respectfully invite the chairman of the LOC to kindly guide us on this process. The chairman, Frater